Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 5 Reflection.
I think that, to be honest, that's why it goes back to the question that you asked me, like when you said, have I grown? And I made the statement and said, I'm just a little more intelligent because as a kid, I was always aware of faith and God and loving people and just trying to do right by people. And I mean, that's just something that has never really left me. So that's why I said that I haven't really, like sometimes I feel like I had, my it's kind of like my mind is more like the mind of probably like an old man, because a lot of people say, Mr. Wade, you got an old soul, man. You remind me of an old man.
What's the scariest story you
Is it
know?
from a book, a movie, a TV show?
Or is it something that happened in real life? My name is Andrew.
And I'm Nina. Come join us as we talk all things horror.
The frightening, alarming, real life tales show.
Out wherever you're listening to right now.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Season 5 Reflections. And what a guest we have today. And that is Wade Simmons, a guest who was on the Nihan Arav show. And we're going to talk about life. We're going to talk about everything to do with life, everything exciting to do with life. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Wade Simmons. Hey, pal, how are you doing?
Hey, what's good? What's happening? I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, awesome. I First of all, I gotta ask, how are you and how are things in America?
Oh man, well I'm doing fine. I mean, I guess you can say that what's happening in America. I mean, it just depends on I guess what mindset you look at. I mean, there's a lot of good things, there's a lot of bad things, but I try to just try to focus more on the good things.
Awesome, awesome. So before we get into the meat and bones of our conversation, can we take a time travel back into our childhood? And may I ask, who are you if you and I were classmates in high school?
Oh man, so we were in high school. That's actually funny. I would be, probably more of like a witty, sarcastic, creative artist. Because like really to be honest, I'm I haven't really changed that much. Like it's funny you say that because like a lot of my friends be like, Wade, it's kind of funny. Like you still seem like the kind of same guy that you were in high school, which is kind of funny. So as far as personality wise, I haven't really changed much, just maybe just a little more intelligent, just a little bit.
Interesting, interesting. That's that's interesting. Sometimes, so you mean to tell me you haven't grown from life itself?
I mean, as far as I can say, not really, because like I said, my personality has kind of been somewhat the same ever since I was little. I mean, even everything that I'm doing now with life, like it's funny because everything that I'm doing now, I
Yeah,
remember being a freshman in high school, and we
yeah,
had a teacher named Miss Jackson,
yeah.
and she made us like write out a plan for life. And written in those plans, I wrote down that I wanted to be a mortician, I wanted to be a funeral director, I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is, everything that I wrote in that plan is everything that I pretty much pursued.
Interesting. Interesting. You said mortician. That really opened up a box that I don't want to open, but it's gotten me confused. It's gotten me confused. That's why. That's the main reason why I wanted to be on my podcast, is to ask you about that. I mean, how did that come about? When did the interest of being a mortician come about for you?
So, So, again, you're probably like the second host that I'm sharing this story with, but I believe it was like, because I was born in 1992.
Okay.
Somewhere like when I was, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't really remember all the details, but we were in Kansas City at a
Yeah.
church convention, and I literally almost drowned. And I had somewhat of like a, I don't know if it was in the body, out of the body, but it was sort of kind of like a supernatural experience when I
Yeah.
was a kid, and from that day I knew that God was real. And from that happening, I believe that kind of, made me a little more fascinated with wanting to, deal with families when they lost a loved one. So as a kid, I always knew that I wanted to be a mortician. I really believe that that experience had somewhat of to do with it, because oftentimes as a kid, sometimes that's not something that, some people really think about. But I think that that experience
Yeah.
kind of triggered something in me that kind of made me want to do that. Yeah.
Wow. That just that just blew my mind. I can't imagine. I can't imagine that experience. Must be. I'm glad you still remember the experience though of it and the out of body experience. It's really fascinating. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
it was.
imagine. It's hard to imagine that experience. It's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I remember I was underwater, but I was seeing things that, that was something that you wouldn't see every day. But like I said, but I remember as a kid, saying like I saw angels and things like that. I
Yeah.
don't remember all the details, but whatever it was enough to kind of show me that God was real. So like to me, I've always as a kid again been interested in like, working in funeral service and things like that. Like it's not so much because of like the spooky side of it.
Yeah.
It's just that, from a child on, I realized that, that death is more of a natural part of life.
But creating the narrative, creating the story, how did you end up in the pool of water or the river or the lake that you were in? Was it you were
So
sliding or
well,
you
so we
jumping?
so we were so we were at Kansas City. We were in Kansas City rather.
Yeah.
And then I remember like because to be honest, now this is the funny part about it. After that, I was always kind of afraid to swim, but sometimes as a kid, kids are a little curious, so sometimes you just do things just to do it. And so I couldn't really swim, but I kind of ventured out into the deep and I
Yeah.
started drowning. And from then on, it was just like I pretty much almost lost my life that day. But it was like, when that experience happened, it was almost kind of like, it was like if time is really stopped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the things that I saw, like, I believe that I was rescued quick, but but when I was seeing the things, it was like it's really kind of hard to explain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like when you deal with things like that, it's like, because I mean, a lot of people that have had those type of experience and things like that, like, it's not always a bad thing. Like sometimes you see beautiful things, but it's just like it makes you just be more aware that God is real and that it's a life after this.
Wow. This is powerful. I'm trying to take it in. I'm trying to
Yeah,
take
I
it in.
mean,
It's
me too. I'm still trying to take it in because, like, just I often kind of reflect on that. And I think that, to be honest, that's why it goes back to the question that you asked me, like when you said, have I grown?
yeah.
And I made the statement and said, I'm just a little more intelligent because as a kid, I was always aware of faith and God and, loving people and, just trying to do right by people. And I mean, that's just something that has never really left me. So that's why I said that I haven't really, like sometimes I feel like I had my it's kind of like my mind is more like the mind of probably like an old man, because a lot of people say, Mr. Wade, you got an old soul, man. You remind me of an old man.
Interesting. I love this conversation because it's somewhat scary. It's a scary question to ask to many people, and most at the most, it's 90% people are afraid of death, and having that conversation with the oneself is one of the struggles. Personally, I want to share what my story. I had recent anxiety. I think last year. That's why I had to get into therapy. I had
Okay.
panic. I had panic attacks because I have this fear of death, fear of not existing. It's kind of a scary feeling. I've been having the panic attacks like around 5 a.m. sometimes in the middle of the night, or sometimes at 12. And then after that, the panic attacks keep going on until, of course, I had the therapy, and I worked with a counsel, and somehow I'm getting better now at life, and I'm catching up with life, and I'm working on a podcast just to get my head out of trouble, out of my own world. So this experience is somewhat relevant to what you're doing. So I wanted to have that conversation because there's one curious question I have. This is this is a personal. It's not a personal question. This might be an odd question. As a mortician, if the world ends and you're the last person, who will be your mortician? I'm just worried. It's just an interesting question
Well,
that's been
well,
bothering
you
me.
know what? Yeah, I know what you mean, but you know what? I've always, now this might sound funny, but I've always said that, God willing, I prefer to, hopefully live to be like an old man, like, maybe like late 80s, 90s, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I've always said that when that time comes, that I wouldn't particularly want a funeral service. I mean, to be honest, to me, it's a business. I've been in it for 11 years since high
Oh.
school, but it's hard for me to really see it outside of that. Like, I kind of see it for what it is, and like, to be honest, it's not a bad thing. But me personally, I
Yeah.
would just want people to go on with their life. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
just me personally. I mean, I know that really don't answer your question, but I mean, for me, I'm just saying that, like, I really do. I wouldn't want no service or nothing like that. No, like, just like over with and just move on. You know what I'm saying?
But why though? May I ask you why?
Well, to me personally, it's just like, I feel like personally, like, that's just, I don't know. It's just it's, to me, I do it because I like, helping families. It's a job. It's a passion of mine. But I'm saying this for myself.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's something that I would want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would rather, like, maybe if it's only that one person or whatever, just go do something fun and enjoy their time. Kind of like, don't focus on the thing that happened. Like, take that as a lesson to, do the things that you enjoy and not waste time. That's what I would tell that one person.
Wow. Wow. I am powerfully blown away from your words. This is an experience. Talking to you is just that experience. I can feel the vibe and that experience oozing out of you. You are really an old soul. the wisdom the wisdom that you're giving me is it's kind of blowing my mind, and it's unbelievable. And yeah, wow, this is
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, I mean, like, when you look at life, the one thing that I learned is, like, everybody's different. And I know we kind of live in this world where sometimes people are at conflict with one another, like, about politics, about religion,
Yeah.
about point of view. But from me being a person that really believes in God, there's a scripture that I love to quote, and
Yeah.
it goes like this. It says, "If it be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men." And I think that for me, the Bible talks a lot about peace.
Yeah.
Like blessed are the peacemakers. Just talk about peace, and I noticed, like for me, being a person of faith, like I feel like anybody that maybe has, maybe going through anxiety and things like that, I would always tell them, like, we're different. So everybody got different things that triggers them or brings them joy or makes them upset. But I learned that it's
Yeah.
a good thing to pinpoint the things that bother you. And when you think about peace, right?
Yeah.
Like I learned that sometimes you just have to focus on the things that bring you joy and peace. Because like I feel like joy and happiness really is just a state of mind. I
Yeah.
mean, a person could be they could be happy or unhappy. Like, sometimes we have life situations that maybe things don't go the way that we felt they should. But I learned that, like, if something doesn't go a certain way, you know, it's okay to be upset or disappointed. But I learned that, you really get nothing out of being upset or disappointed. So what do? You just have to look for another angle to handle that situation. You
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Old soul. I gotta call you old soul. This is I feel I feel like I'm talking to an older version of myself, more philosophical, more in depth, more realistic to the ground that he is in, because in this world crazy things are happening. Everybody is off their feet with social media, with what you mentioned,
Yeah.
politics. Everything is just, everybody's all over the place. They're floating around in their own bubbles, and sometimes
Yeah.
the nobody is planted into the firmly into the ground, talking about things that should be spoken about, like life, death, like the meaning of learning, and all these things. That's what I really envy in certain aspects of people, is because no one cares anymore. I mean, I don't know if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
No, man, you're preaching real good. You're preaching real good, man. You're telling the truth because, like, it's funny that you brought that up because I think about that too a lot. Like, when you look at the world we live in now, like, again, I was born in 1992, so I
Yeah.
mean, the world wasn't a perfect place then, but when you think about, being a kid and you say, man, I can't wait till I grow up and I get older and
Yeah.
stuff like this. But like here I am, I'm 30 years old now, and I look
Yeah.
at the world and you look at it, it's like
I want to be a
everybody's in
kid
their
again.
own world. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like everybody's in their own world. It's like even like relationships. Like I'm actually getting ready to do a film on this actually, but it's like when you think about relationships, like now, majority of people relationship time are spent on their phones. Like you look at it, maybe people go out on a date or whatever. Most people are on their phones looking at social media feeds, or it's almost kind of
Yeah.
like the it's kind of like people are focusing on what's happening outside of them as opposed to what's happening in front of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a bad thing because when you look at time, right?
Yeah.
Time is really important. Like when you're in somebody's presence, when you're out with your friends or with your family, I feel like you should cherish that moment. Like you should take that moment and because oftentimes from working in a funeral home, the one thing you hear all the time is like, oh man, we need to get together more often. We need to hang out more often. But people always say that, but they always say that when it's too late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's like you have to enjoy people while they're in your presence. Because
Yeah.
you never know, man. I tell you, my uncle, he came up here to visit us, drove my grandma them down to Alabama.
Yeah.
And before he could even make it back to his destination, getting home, he passed away while he was up here visiting us. And so that's my point is like, sometimes, life hits us sometimes with things that we never even would imagine would have happened. But that's the thing that we don't get to always know what's going to happen. But while we have those moments, we should thank God for it. And then also you brought up another point about social media. Like social media could be a good tool, but unfortunately, it's kind of like people using more for darkness, kind of like to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hate other people and to, talk about other people and to make fun of other people. But again,
Yeah.
I thank God that He gave me a mindset to love people because, I don't have no reason to hate nobody, or because like sometimes the world has a very judgmental spirit behind it. And what I mean is this is like sometimes they may see something, they
Yeah.
may not even know it, but then they'll form an opinion about a person. And you see a lot of people commenting about things, but to me, I don't do that because
Yeah.
if I don't know a person, I can see something, but if I don't know a person, who am I to say, oh, that person is doing this
True.
or doing that? Like I'm not gonna do that, you know?
True. 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 Spoken absolute truth. That's true. There's one rule in my life that I agree with. That is exactly what I agree with. If you don't know the person, why do you want to stick your nose into someone else's business? It makes no sense, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating and it's powerful, this conversation. I really love this conversation, especially one quotation that I've written down here on my notes as a tribute to you. Time is important, and I do agree that time is important, especially the last few days. Yeah. Speaking of time, I want to share this opportunity that I managed to cherish for my lifetime. My grandfather, he passed away like uh 3 or 4 years ago, and I managed to spend quality time with him. And I still carry that vision, that image of him in my heart,
Yeah,
because he taught me a lot of things. And I agree with you. Time is ti- absolutely important when you're taking those steps. And yeah, uh the that is the thing. So just a short discussion before we wrap up, because I have another recording to go through. I wanted to know where did the interest of visual storytelling or movie making came from?
so even that came from childhood. I was a very big like Walt Disney fan, Spike Lee fan, and as a kid, I was into photography. Like I took pictures and I did all of like the family videos and stuff, and I love to write and make up cartoon characters. So that's what always made me want to be an artist and a filmmaker. Like I said, I had always said that that's what I'm gonna do. And
Yeah,
I just had the faith to believe that God would bless me be able to do it, and He did. And I have a feeling that it's gonna turn into something even greater.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
It's like we literally turned back the clock, and we went through your childhood together. It's like we've experienced your childhood all together, and I felt like that just happened.
yeah. I mean, yeah, but sometimes I feel like that as I look back over life, and I really appreciate you for even bringing this conversation up because as I really look back and reflect on life,
Yeah,
to me, it makes me just appreciate God and appreciate my family and friends and even experiences because like I feel like sometimes what we can all learn from life is that the most important thing in this life is how you treat people, how you value people, and also just the fact that purpose is a big part of life because when we think about it, like time, again, as we
yeah,
talk about time, is really important. I know I got one friend, she would debate with me about this and say, time is a man-made concept. But what I tell people is that, well, if that's your point of view, that's fair. But
yeah,
whatever you want to call it, it still runs out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah, it does make sense. It does make sense too.
Yeah. So like I said, I told her, I don't disagree with people for their point of view. I respect it, but it doesn't take away the fact that it runs out. Whatever
Yeah,
we want to call it.
yeah. that's that's actually a fair point to what you said. And I'm sure
Yeah.
her jaw was dropped, and it's kind of fair point.
Oh yeah, Yeah, well, sometimes, for peace sake, I respect people from, for their point of view, because I always say that, as we look at life, everybody has seen different things, had different experiences, and sometimes, depending on what angle you look at a situation, sometimes a person could be right, because I think sometimes we look at what people say, but we don't look into sometimes the meaning behind what they're saying, because sometimes
Yeah,
a person can make a statement,
yeah,
but depending on the meaning behind it, and what they're saying and the facts, sometimes they're right. But like I was telling her, like,
yeah.
I get it. You want to call this a man-made concept, but whatever you want to call it, it runs out.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. I enjoyed this conversation, pal, and I wish you can come back to the Rajiv show and share some more of your wisdom, old man wisdom. I really enjoyed this conversation of ours, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, I have to cut the conversation short because of the Zoom 40 minutes, and of course, I have another call coming up. But before we go, if someone wants to connect with you via social media, how will they find you on social media, pal?
Sure. So I'm Wade Simmons on Facebook. You can get some of my film work over on Vimeo, Wade Filmmaker 37. So Wade Filmmaker 777. And then you can find me on Instagram, Wade Jedi 99. I'm a big Star Wars fan, always on the light side of the Force. Yeah.
Awesome. I want to thank my guest, Wade Simmons. Thank you so much for extending your time. And I hope to talk to you again soon. I will stay in touch, definitely stay in touch with you. And
Oh
folks,
yeah. Yeah. Well,
with
God willing, anytime you want to have me back as a guest, man, you always got me. So it's all good with me, man.
awesome, awesome. With that in mind, cheers, folks, and I will see you in the next episode.